Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, April 9th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect mostly cloudy skies with a high of 97 degrees in San Antonio today. The civil trial between survivors and families of the 2017 Sutherland Springs shooting and the federal government continues today, following emotional testimony from his parents. Reporter Guillermo Contreras has the latest over at expressnews.com. And in another step towards normalcy, the city announced many facilities will reopen in-person services starting next week. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. Michael and Rebecca Kelly were busy tending to one of their college-age daughters and her friends at their 28-acre spread in rural New Braunfels on November 5, 2017, when a group text came to their phones. It was from their son, Devin Kelly. "Go, Auntie Danielle." It left them puzzled. What they would find out later, the Kellys testified Thursday in a federal trial, was that their son had done the unimaginable. Devin Kelly had tied up his wife Danielle at an apartment on the family's property. Armed with an assault rifle, 2 handguns, body armor, and hundreds of bullets, Kelly drove to a town his parents had never heard of, Sutherland Springs. At First Baptist Church there, he massacred 26 congregants with the assault rifle and injured 20 more. You can read more on the trial over at expressnews.com. The Border Patrol encountered more migrants at the southern border in March than it has in 2 decades as the number of unaccompanied children and families seeking refuge in the United States continues to grow. The Border Patrol reported more than 172,000 migrant encounters last month, a 70% increase from February, mostly attributed to single adults being repeatedly caught crossing the border. The Biden administration is immediately expelling those individuals under a Trump-era public health order, leaving them free to try again. Our Austin Bureau has the latest over on our website. Ahead of what's turned out to be one of the worst winter storms in the state's history, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas was charged with providing the public consistent updates on power outages, tips for consumers, and other important crisis communications. But as Texas froze and ERCOT called for rolling power outages to manage the titanic demand for power, the agency's main vehicle for providing the public with information was a series of Twitter posts sometimes indecipherable to most residents. Taylor Goldstein tells us why in her latest article. Lawrence Larry Hancock, an heir to the founder of a fabric store chain, liked to invest in Texas ranches with the intent of selling them for profit. Hancock's acquisition included a 40,000-acre ranch in the Laredo area, as well as 1,800 acres split between 2 ranches in Val Verde and Kinney counties in southwestern Texas in 2006. 71-year-old Hancock no longer roams the ranch. He has dementia and resides in an assisted living facility in Tupelo, Mississippi. Last month, his oldest daughter sued San Antonio's largest law firm for more than $27 million, accusing it of legal malpractice and defrauding Hancock, a longtime client, in connection with the ranch transactions. Patrick Danner has that story over at expressnews.com. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. One person was killed and 5 others wounded yesterday in a shooting at a cabinet-making business in Bryan, Texas that resulted in a manhunt and eventual capture of a male suspect. Bexar County officials were blindsided by Governor Abbott's call to shutter the use of the Freeman Coliseum to temporarily house migrant children after saying he received several complaints alleging child abuse and neglect. An alleged drunk driver hit and killed a bicyclist riding with her bike group just north of downtown. The Texas Immunization Registry is not quite a Stone Age vehicle for sharing immunization records, but in its present form, it certainly is not what Texans have in mind or what we paid for, writes Allison Winicky. If the Spurs are honest with themselves, they'll acknowledge that things might get worse before they get better, and there are no guarantees their current slump will end before the season does, writes Mike Finger. San Antonio and Bexar County officials reported a modest number of newly diagnosed coronavirus cases yesterday, along with more deaths from COVID-19. At the end of his life, theater artist and teacher Greg Hinojosa experienced something rare. He got to say goodbye to those he loved, and they got to say goodbye to him. Texas Land Commissioner George P. Bush said he's weighing a run against Attorney General Ken Paxton in a Republican primary next year. In his annual State of the District talk, SAISD Superintendent Pedro Martinez says the district is poised to get through the coronavirus pandemic and emerge from it better than it has ever been. Officials discovered a body after a fire ripped through a home in Lytle. The body, which is yet to be identified, was found by investigators after the fire was extinguished, according to the Bexar County Fire Marshal's office. Plano John Paul II small forward Jalen Tyson, the only recruit Texas Tech signed during the 2021 cycle, announced he will instead join new Texas coach Chris Beard on the 40 acres. Though many people experiencing homelessness were apprehensive at first to receive the vaccine, they started to change their minds the more they learned about it, according to the president and CEO of Christian Assistance Ministry. For the season, the Spurs are allowing the 10th fewest fast break points per game in the NBA at 11.7. But over the last 3, all losses, the Spurs ranked 27th at 19.3. Bryce Rivers played 2 years at UTSA before transferring to Northwestern State, where he rose from number 3 on the depth chart to become the top option at quarterback. Third time's the charm for Delyn Morin, at least when it comes to renovating homes in her Alta Vista neighborhood. She's not a flipper. She's lived in all 3 properties she's fixed up in the neighborhood, wedged between Monte Vista and Beacon Hill. That includes her most recent project, a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, century-old home in desperate need of being rescued from a 1980s-era improvement. Morin was living in California when COVID struck. So when she moved back to San Antonio to be closer to family, she decided to buy something in an area she's familiar with. If you think the outside is quaint, wait till you see the interior. Richard Marini brings you inside this historic Alta Vista bungalow. San Antonio loves parties, but it's been a long time since we could say this. It's a 2-festival weekend. We're rounding up the best things happening around town over at expressnews.com. Got bees? Calling a removal and relocation service is cheaper and better for the environment than using an exterminator. Renee Guzman has what you need to know about beehive removal and relocation and why it's better. Stone Oak Mexican restaurant Cushy Cocina Mexicana is where bugs, tequila, and mezcal help deliver interior Mexican flavors. Read Mike Sutter's review over at expressnews.com. And that's all for today. This was your Express briefing for Friday, April 9th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.